This diamond absorbed light from a star that died before our sun was even born, and someone found it, by hand, thousands of years ago. How? Here's something nobody prepares you for. Regular diamonds reflect light. They sparkle. They're designed by their very nature to catch your eye. Black diamonds do the opposite. They absorb light, every single wavelength. They pull it in and give nothing back. You look at a black diamond, and you're not looking at a stone. You're looking at something that feels like a hole in the universe. And that's not poetry. That is almost literally what it is. Because the leading scientific theory right now, supported by NASA researchers, is that black diamonds did not form on this Earth. They formed inside a star that exploded and died before our sun existed, before this solar system was anything more than a cloud of floating dust. These stones drifted through space for billions of years, landed on this planet, buried themselves in the ground, and then ancient humans, with no science, no telescopes, no framework to understand what they were holding, found them. And somehow, they knew. They knew these stones were different. They knew they came from somewhere beyond the sky. They built rituals around them, economies, religions. They sent their children underground to find more of them. And that is the story nobody has ever told you. Let me tell you what a black diamond actually is, because it is not, in any meaningful way, the same thing as the diamonds you've seen your whole life. A regular diamond is pure carbon, formed about 100 miles underground. Extreme heat, extreme pressure, millions of years. Then a volcanic event pushes it toward the surface. That's it. That's the whole story. Black diamonds, scientists call them carbonado, have a completely different story. And every piece of that story is strange. They're not found 100 miles underground. They're found near the surface, in riverbeds, in gravel. As if they fell from somewhere above, rather than pushed up from somewhere below. They don't have a single crystal structure like regular diamonds. They're made of millions of microscopic diamond crystals, all fused together at completely random angles, like something was shattered and fused back together violently in space during an explosion. They contain a mineral called osbornite. On Earth, osbornite is found in exactly one place, inside meteorites. They contain hydrogen, in concentrations that suggest they spent billions of years floating in a hydrogen-rich environment, an environment that does not exist anywhere in our solar system. And they are found, on this entire planet, in only two places, Brazil and the Central African Republic, two countries, on opposite sides of the Atlantic Ocean. But here's the thing about those two locations. Geologists traced the tectonic plates backward through time. 3 billion years ago, those two landmasses were one continent. They were touching, which means whatever created black diamonds arrived before the continents split apart, before 3 billion years ago. For context, complex life on Earth didn't exist until about 600 million years ago. The dinosaurs died 66 million years ago. Black diamonds were already here, for 2.4 billion years before the dinosaurs showed up. So, who found them first? The state of Bahia, northeastern Brazil. Before any European ever set foot in the Americas, the indigenous peoples of this region had been finding black diamonds in the riverbeds for longer than their oral histories could record. Nobody knows when they started. The stones were just always part of their world. And here's the detail I can't stop thinking about. They weren't mining these stones for wealth. They didn't have a diamond market. There was no economy to sell them into. They were mining them because they believed these stones contained the souls of the night sky. In several indigenous cosmologies of the region, black diamonds were described as pieces of the sky that had hardened and fallen to Earth during moments of cosmic violence. They were placed in the eye sockets of burial figures to give the dead vision in the afterlife, vision that could see through darkness, through distance, through death itself. Think about that. An indigenous tribe in the Brazilian rainforest thousands of years ago, with zero access to modern astrophysics, looked at a black diamond and saw the cosmos. They were not wrong. Now here's what they actually did to find these stones, because this part is brutal. Alluvial mining on their hands and knees, in rivers running through some of the most dangerous jungle on the planet, tropical heat, piranhas in the water, jaguars on the banks. They used wooden pans. They scooped gravel from the riverbed and swirled it, the same motion, the same technique, for hours. For entire lifetimes. When the Portuguese arrived in the 1700s and took control, they looked at black diamonds and threw them away. Too dark, too rough, not clear, not valuable. It took them 100 years to understand that black diamonds are harder than any other natural material on Earth, that their toughness, which comes from those millions of randomly fused crystals, makes regular diamonds look fragile. A century of throwing away the hardest substance on the planet. The people they'd colonized had known its value for millennia. Now cross that ancient supercontinent to Africa, Central African Republic, one of the most resource-rich and most devastated places on Earth. And in the Iron Age, roughly 2,000 years ago, ancient Bantu-speaking civilizations here were doing something extraordinary with black diamonds. They weren't worshipping them, they were using them, because black diamond, carbonado, is not just the hardest natural substance. It is harder in a specific practical way that ancient craftsmen discovered through pure trial and error. Regular diamond is hard, but brittle. Hit it at the right angle, along its crystal plane, and it splits. Ancient lapidaries knew this. It's how you shape a diamond without modern tools. Black diamond has no single crystal plane. Those millions of randomly fused crystals mean it has no weak angle, no split point. You cannot cleave it. You cannot chip it, predictably. In practical terms, it's the perfect cutting tool. Ancient African craftsmen were using carbonado-tipped instruments to carve other stones, engrave metalwork, drill through materials that no other tool of the era could penetrate. These weren't decorations. These were industrial tools. 2,000 years ago, and the civilizations that controlled black diamond deposits controlled a technological advantage over everyone around them. Better tools meant better weapons. Better weapons meant territory. Territory meant survival. The tribes who held the Carbonado mines held power, control the black diamond, control the world. Sound familiar? Because that exact logic, the logic of whoever controls the hardest material, controls everything, is still running the global economy right now. We just call it industrial diamond mining and semiconductor manufacturing. Ancient Africa figured out the same equation 2,000 years ago with hand tools and firelight. I need you to actually picture this. No electricity, no explosives, no mechanical drills, no safety equipment of any kind. You are underground. The shaft is so narrow you are on your stomach crawling. The torch you're carrying is the only light source within a mile. The temperature is rising the deeper you go. The air is getting thinner. And you're a child. Because the adults couldn't fit. The primary mining technique used across ancient cultures worldwide, from Africa to Brazil to ancient Persia, was called fire setting. You build an enormous fire directly against the rock face. You let it burn for hours, sometimes days. The rock expands. You throw cold water on it suddenly. The thermal shock creates fractures. Then you attack those fractures with bone and wooden tools. It works. It is also extraordinarily dangerous. Rocks explode when they fracture under thermal stress, not crack, explode, like shrapnel. Carbon monoxide builds up in enclosed underground spaces when fires burn. It's colorless, odorless. You don't know it's killing you until you can't move. And caves collapse, randomly, without warning. Archaeologists have found ancient mining sites, both in Brazil and Central Africa, with skeletal remains of children inside the narrowest passages, small enough to fit where adults couldn't, sent in with a torch and a tool. We don't talk about this part. When people see black diamonds in jewelry store cases, in Beverly Hills, nobody mentions the child in the tunnel 2,000 years ago. But they were there. We found their bones. We found their tools next to their hands. The most precious stones on this planet have always been paid for before they ever reach the surface. Here's where it gets genuinely unsettling. We have better instruments than ever. We can map the genome of a virus. We can photograph black holes. We landed a rover on Mars and drove it around. And we still cannot fully explain black diamonds? The outer space origin theory is the most accepted, but it is still a theory, because the evidence doesn't fit perfectly into any single explanation. If Carbonado came from a meteorite impact, why is there no impact crater? Impacts of sufficient size to deliver this much material leave craters the size of small states. If they drifted here as an asteroid, why only Brazil and Africa? If an asteroid broke apart, entering the atmosphere, the material should be distributed across a much wider area. And here is the detail. that genuinely keeps researchers up at night. Black diamonds contain osbornite, only found in meteorites. We know this, but they also contain fluid inclusions, microscopic pockets of hydrogen, that indicate they spent billions of years in a hydrogen-rich interstellar environment. An environment completely different from any meteorite-forming process we know. They seem to have come from two completely different places, or from one place that doesn't exist in our current models of the universe. Some researchers now believe Carbonado may be the remnant of a hydrogen-rich supernova, a specific type of stellar explosion from a star that lived and died before our solar system existed. The carbon from that explosion, fused under the pressure of the blast wave, traveled through interstellar space for billions of years, arrived here. If that's true, black diamonds are not from our solar system at all. They are visitors, ancient beyond comprehension, made in a place that no longer exists, by a process we've never witnessed. And ancient humans, sitting by firelight with no science, no language for any of this, picked them up from riverbeds and said, "This came from beyond the sky. Tonight, the sky above you contains billions of stars. Most of them are already dead. The light you're seeing left those stars thousands of years ago. You're watching ghosts, somewhere in that sky. In a place we can't point to, around a star whose name we don't know, the carbon that became black diamonds was born. Forged in a nuclear furnace so powerful it ended an entire star's existence. That carbon traveled through the void for longer than the Earth has existed. It landed here, and humans, ancient, brilliant, fearless humans, crawled into the dark Earth and pulled it back out with their bare hands. They didn't know the physics, they didn't need to. They felt something in these stones that our instruments are only now beginning to confirm. These aren't just rocks. They are the oldest things you can hold in your hand, older than Earth, older than the sun, older than almost anything in this solar system, and someone found them with their fingers in a riverbed thousands of years ago, and thought, this is not from here. They were right. We traded so much of that ancient knowledge for progress, but sometimes, in the quiet moments, in the dark, you can feel what they felt, that the universe is so much older, so much stranger, and so much more beautiful than anything we've been taught. Before you go, genuinely, one question. Which part of this story hit you the hardest? Was it the child miners, the ancient Brazilians calling these stones pieces of the fallen sky, and being right? Or the fact that right now, in 2024, scientists still cannot fully explain what black diamonds are or where they came from? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one, and if this gave you even one moment where you looked at the world a little differently, share it with one person. That's all, just one. If you want to go deeper into the histories nobody taught us, subscribe. Every video we make is built to make you feel exactly what you felt just now. I'll see you in the next one.